You know those places on Earth that look like someone cranked the drama setting all the way up? Where the landscapes feel like they were built for epic fantasy movies except they're real, and you don't need CGI to believe them. That's Scandinavia. It's like nature's flex reel, where cliffs, glaciers, and waterfalls don't just exist, they perform. Let's start with the fjords, because honestly, if Earth has a resume, fjords are listed under special skills. Picture this: colossal walls of rock rising out of the water like the planet split open and forgot to close the zipper. Norway in particular has fjords that make you feel microscopic, in the best way. Geiranger Fjord, for instance, plunges so deep below sea level, it's basically an ocean canyon. Yet the cliffs rise so steep, you half expect a dragon to swoop out and land on them. And then there are waterfalls. Not polite little trickles, but towering cascades crashing down nearly 1,000 feet, like the mountain couldn't hold its excitement anymore. It's not just scenery, it's a visual punch to the face, but a very polite Scandinavian one. And then tucked away, you've got Fjord. So narrow it feels like someone hit the zoom button on reality. At points it squeezes down to just a few hundred meters wide, with cliffs rising straight up on either side. Standing there, you can't help but think, if Earth wanted to cosplay as Middle-earth, this would be the spot. But here's the kicker, and I mean that figuratively, not in the cheesy YouTube way. Barely a fraction of Norway's tourists even bother going there. Which is mind-blowing, because if this fjord existed anywhere else on Earth, it'd be crawling with people selling overpriced lattes and drone rentals. In Norway, it's just there, quiet, majestic, like it's in on some cosmic secret. Of course, fjords are only the opening act. Scandinavia has cliffs that make even people who aren't scared of heights rethink their life choices. Take Trolltunga, the troll's tongue, a sliver of rock that juts out dramatically over a lake, thousands of feet below. It looks like the perfect throne for some Norse god, but instead it's mostly crowded with tourists trying to get the perfect Instagram photo, lying down, dangling legs over the abyss, or doing yoga poses like the ground beneath them isn't just death, but scenic. The irony is, this dramatic rock shelf was shaped over 10,000 years ago by glaciers grinding and scraping away. So basically, the trolls didn't make it. Ancient ice did. But I'll admit, the troll fishing from here folklore is a much better story. Not far away is Preikestolen, or Pulpit Rock, which is so perfectly flat it looks like a stage built by nature's own architect. Nearly 2,000 feet above the fjord, hikers climb for hours just to sit on the edge, dangle their feet, and contemplate their life decisions while the wind tries its best to push them into an existential crisis. It's one of those spots where even people terrified of heights suddenly decide, yeah, let's crawl to the edge and peek over. The adrenaline rush must be part of the ticket price. And then there's Kjeragbolten, the famous boulder wedged between two cliffs, a giant rock suspended over a dizzying drop. Every year, people line up just to step onto it, shuffle out like penguins, smile for a photo, and then shuffle back praying their shoes have enough grip. It's basically nature's cruelest photo booth. The rock's been there for about 12,000 years, held in place by nothing more than stubbornness and physics. And yet humans can't resist treating it like their personal stage. Call it madness, call it bravery. Either way, it's a spectacle. But cliffs and rocks are only part of Scandinavia's magic. Head further inland and you hit mountain country, and this isn't just, oh, some hills. This is Jotunheimen, literally translated as home of the giants, which feels appropriate because the peaks here don't mess around. Norway's highest mountain, Galdhøpiggen, scrapes the sky at over 8,000 feet, and surrounding it are hundreds of other peaks that climb above 6,000. To Norwegians, though, this is less epic mountaineering and more what you do on a Sunday when the weather's nice. They treat climbing glaciers and summiting ridges with the same casual attitude most people reserve for walking the dog. Meanwhile, the rest of us are gasping for oxygen halfway up the trail, wondering if our hamstrings will ever forgive us. But Jotunheimen isn't just about muscle aches. It's about standing in landscapes so raw and untouched, you feel like you've slipped into a saga. Glaciers snake down valleys, lakes reflect jagged peaks like mirrors, and the silence hits different. It's the kind of quiet where you realize just how loud the modern world is. Up here, surrounded by ridge lines named after mythical giants, it feels like the border between the human world and the legendary one got blurred. And speaking of blurred, let's talk about islands that don't know if they're part of the sea or the mountains. The Lofoten Islands are the kind of place that look fake even in photos. Rugged peaks shoot straight out of turquoise waters. Villages of red cabins cling to the shoreline, and the whole scene feels like a desktop wallpaper came to life. But this isn't some untouched wilderness. It's been lived in for over 1,000 years. Vikings fished these waters, dried cod into stockfish, and basically built the backbone of a food trade that still thrives today. To this day, racks of drying fish line the islands like bizarre outdoor art installations, filling the air with a smell that you either find nostalgic or, well, slightly aggressive. Life in Lofoten is shaped by the sea, but also by the light. Because up here, summer comes with a surreal twist: the midnight sun. Imagine heading to bed at 11 p.m. and the sun's still blazing like it's 3 in the afternoon. Locals shrug it off, but visitors lose all sense of time. You'll catch people hiking at 2 in the morning, kids playing outside like bedtime was canceled by the cosmos, and photographers running around like caffeinated squirrels chasing the perfect golden glow. It's magical, it's disorienting, and it makes you realize just how strange and wonderful this part of the world really is. And if Lofoten feels a little too Instagrammed, Senja offers the same jaw-dropping drama, but with fewer crowds. This island has mountains that rise straight out of the sea like jagged shark fins, cliffs that look like the earth cracked open, and bays so calm they look painted. For centuries, it's been home to the Sami people, who lived off these waters long before hashtags existed. They fished, traded, and kept traditions alive in a landscape that demands both respect and resilience. Today, Senja still feels like a secret, a place where the wilderness dominates and the human footprint is light. Then there are the Lyngen Alps, Norway's northern crown jewel. These peaks, carved by both tectonics and glaciers, stretch skyward with icy ferocity. Their glaciers feed valleys below, creating ecosystems that thrive in conditions most of us would call inhospitable. But the real showstopper here isn't just the peaks or the snow. It's the summer phenomenon of endless daylight. 24 hours of sunshine. The midnight sun paints the peaks in gold at 1 a.m., and even the wildlife adapts. Plants bloom in overdrive, birds barely rest, and humans? Well, most just drink more coffee and pretend they don't need sleep. If mountains and islands are Scandinavia's drama queens, then the waterfalls and glaciers are the show-offs. Take Vøringsfossen, one of Norway's most famous waterfalls. This thing doesn't just fall, it plummets nearly 600 feet in a roar of mist and spray that makes you question whether you're in a national park or on the set of an epic fantasy saga. And it's not a solo act either. The whole area is filled with water tumbling down cliffs in ways that make you wonder if gravity just has a special arrangement with Norway. Then there's Jostedalsbreen, the largest glacier in mainland Europe. It sprawls across the mountains like a frozen empire, its icy arms stretching into valleys and carving out the land with a patience humans can't even imagine. Sure, it moves slowly, inches a day, but over thousands of years, that's enough to literally reshape the planet. Standing on the ice, you get that eerie feeling of being on something ancient, alive in its own slow way, and entirely indifferent to you. And yet it's kind of comforting too, like you're borrowing time from a force much older than you'll ever be. Fogafana, another massive glacier, adds its own flair. Scientists study its ancient ice like time capsules, extracting cores that reveal centuries of climate history. Meanwhile, adventure seekers show up with skis in the middle of July because why not? In a place where glaciers and summer coexist, you learn quickly that seasons are just suggestions. But Scandinavia doesn't stop at glaciers and waterfalls. It cranks the drama all the way up with its Arctic edges. Head north, and you'll eventually hit Nordkapp, the northernmost cliff of mainland Europe. Standing there 1,000 feet above the Arctic Ocean, staring out at endless water, you feel like you've reached the edge of the world. For centuries, sailors thought of it that way. The last marker before plunging into the unknown. Today, it's less about survival and more about selfies. But the feeling is still the same. Raw, awe-inspiring isolation. Push even further north and you'll land in Longyearbyen, the world's northernmost settlement. This place is wild in every sense. Polar bears literally outnumber humans, and the law is clear. You don't just stroll out of town without protection. To make things even quirkier, owning a dog is illegal. It's all about keeping the fragile Arctic ecosystem safe. The town itself started as a coal mining outpost, but now it's also home to one of the most secure facilities on the planet, the Svalbard Global Seed Vault. Yep, in case of global catastrophe, this icy bunker is humanity's backup pantry, storing millions of seeds from across the world. Imagine being in one of the most remote places on Earth, and right next door sits a vault holding the future of agriculture. It's surreal, but then again, everything about Longyearbyen feels like you're living in a different set of rules. And while we're on the Arctic, let's not forget the midnight sun's flip side, the polar night. In Tromsø, for an entire month, the sun doesn't rise at all. People wake up, go to work, run errands, and head home, all without daylight. Some folks thrive in the coziness, others load up on vitamin D lamps, and travelers usually come for the spectacle, the northern lights dancing overhead like cosmic fireworks. Tromsø also proudly hosts the world's northernmost brewery, because if you're going to live in a place where the sun takes a vacation for 30 days, you might as well raise a glass to it. Now, Scandinavia isn't only about the wilderness. The way people live in these landscapes adds its own layer of magic. Bergen, for example, is known as the gateway to the fjords, surrounded by mountains and soaked in more rainfall than most people could tolerate. The locals don't complain. They just carry on with their umbrellas, wander the old wooden wharves that once fueled the Hanseatic trading empire, and hike the surrounding peaks like it's just part of the daily commute. If you ever want to understand how people thrive in wet weather, spend a week in Bergen. You'll either adapt or grow moss. Ålesund, on the other hand, feels like someone dropped a slice of Art Nouveau fantasy into Norway. After a devastating fire in 1904, the entire town was rebuilt in this dreamy architectural style. Wander its streets today and you'll find towers, turrets, and pastel buildings that look like they belong in a European storybook. And just outside the town, trails that lead you to some of the most jaw-dropping viewpoints over fjords and islands. It's a reminder that in Scandinavia, culture and nature never really compete. They dance together. But perhaps the most charming thing about these landscapes isn't just the epic cliffs or endless horizons. It's how stories and legends seep into every corner. Trolls lurking in the mountains, spirits haunting waterfalls, peaks named after giants. These myths don't just decorate the scenery, they feel baked into it, as if the land itself carries memory. And maybe that's what makes Scandinavia feel so different. It's not just about what you see, but what you sense. The idea that nature isn't just a backdrop, it's a character. So when you stand on a cliff overlooking a fjord, or hike to a glacier that's been grinding rock since the Ice Age, or walk through a fishing village where stockfish still dries in the Arctic breeze, it doesn't feel like you're just looking at pretty scenery. It feels like you're in conversation with something vast, ancient, and unapologetically dramatic. And that's the real secret here. Scandinavia isn't showing off. This is just who it is. A land sculpted by ice and time, wrapped in myths, sprinkled with waterfalls and lit by suns that refuse to set. Whether it's a boulder daring you to step out on it, a village painted red against turquoise waters, or reindeer grazing at the edge of the Arctic cliffs, it's all part of a landscape that doesn't just impress you, it humbles you. If you've made it this far, you're probably already planning a trip, or at least adding another destination to your someday list. And honestly, that's the point. Because whether you're chasing fjords, cliffs, glaciers, or just the chance to say you stood at the end of the world, Scandinavia is proof that Earth knows how to put on a show. So if you enjoyed this journey, go ahead and like the video, share it with someone who needs a little wanderlust in their life, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next adventure.